My mother is disabled due to a neurological disease. She was diagnosed in her late 30s, and I remember that she was sick and needed help. I used to really look up to her as a supermom who could overcome any obstacle. That was until my father died. My father died over 10 years ago when I was still in high school. At that time my brother and I lived with my parents. I got a job when I was in high school after he left, cleaning the house, mowing the grass, buying food with money from work, paying bills when I could, the minimum wage is low, and cooking dinner for my mom and myself almost every night. My brother was rarely at home, except to sleep or because he needed money. Over the years, my brother has been in and out of prison dozens and dozens of times for everything from drunk driving to drug possession to stealing from our mother to assault. He is currently incarcerated. No one mentions him or expects anything of him, except my mother who, in violation of a court order for her own protection that she herself asked for, sends him money and speaks to him weekly as well as sends letters. Back to my father's death, a 7-month bout with illness. Almost 2 years after my father's death, I graduated from high school and went to college out of state. I sent money to my mom when I was in college, and I distinctly remember, for example, using my scholarship I got in December to buy Christmas presents for my mom and brother, because I knew they wouldn't have anything if I won't buy. No one reciprocated, but I did not expect this. To be honest, I didn't care either until it became the norm over the next decade. That very Christmas, I was barely 18 years old, and I was collecting pennies to buy a cheap refrigerator after I returned home for the winter holidays with gifts, only to realize that there was no food in the house. My brother, in a drug-fueled rage, tore down the Christmas tree I had bought and decorated and threatened to kill himself if I didn't give him the money because no one loved him, and that would prove that I cared. It is important to note that even during this time, my mother continued to let my brother, who became a criminal, back to the house. I'll try to skip my college and graduate years, but suffice it to say that I met my current husband and spent less and less time at home. When I was at home or when my husband and I were visiting, it was like this: clean my mom's house, buy mom food, cook for mom, take care of my mom. I was and remain very firm with my mother that I would not let my brother in my life as he threatened to kill me over the prescription cough syrup, threw me down the stairs and broke down the door to get to me, and some of the money I had at the time. I have no doubt that he will try to harm my child, my husband or me in order to get what he wants. He told me he would find me and he would teach me a lesson for his perception that I wronged him for not giving him money, and I have zero contact with him. I have blocked all numbers that have anything to do with him, including friends he calls from outside the prison. P.S. My mother let him take my number from her phone. I told my mom for years that I didn't want to have my brother in my life until he stopped using drugs for at least 1 year. To date, he is unable to do so. He stole tens of thousands of dollars from her. She always says she won't let him back into her house, but she eventually forgives him and the cycle repeats. The next year, when he was released again, she told me in no uncertain terms that he would not live with her, but admits that she keeps in touch, sends him money, and thinks it is the devil in him that makes him addicted. He will return. I offered to help my mom move closer to me since I live in many states. My husband and I even asked the realtor to come out and start the process of registering our house so we could find a house with space for my mom. My only stipulation was that she not drag my brother into my son's life. She categorically refused. She also refused to go to nursing homes, despite the fact that I went to her of my own free will and received excellent recommendations from her doctors. Now that she had surgery this week, my family is out of the slums. To be honest, I'm outraged by this. I had people who couldn't even send me a mutual Christmas card and told me that I was neglecting my mother, refusing to take time off from work and go to her place to take care of her. They don't care that I don't have days off and that I will most likely lose my job. One even stated that I wouldn't put groceries on my desk. I wouldn't work for such an employer. It's easy to say those words, but say it to my hungry baby. They said, "Who do you think took care of you as a baby?" And frankly, it hurts me. Sometimes you have to learn how to deal with life. You can't just ignore it because getting on with life means losing your job. Walking away from my toddler in his growing up years and taking care of my mother, I guess? You can probably tell at this point that I'm fed up. I am in a stalemate when literally the only surviving family members tell me to quit my job, my family, my young child to take care of my mom and help her. They also refuse to give a timeline, saying it will be as long as she needs it. I am expected to take care of her 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no questions asked. I also feel strongly that they resent my mother for asking them to do me a service. Even though I have explained many times that I offered her to stay with us and have the operation here, at no cost to her, mind you. And she refused. In response, they tell me that she has the right to be close to her friends. I also tried to explain that by bowing to her at every call. They give her an opportunity, but they don't want to hear it. They don't seem to hear me when I try to explain that. For example, helping her get out of the physical therapy room a week and a half before her doctor's recommendation gives her an opportunity, and ultimately hurts her independence. She is used to everyone doing everything for her. For example, during the last visit she was very upset that I did not take her to Walmart, because she had to go there almost before the baby went to bed. It was not emergency. She wanted to look around. My mother, in all this confusion, has taken the position that although she doesn't want me to lose my job, a good daughter should take care of her mother. Frankly, I am very hostile to this statement, because my mother did not call me on my birthday before my father died. I tried to build some kind of relationship with my son. I always try to chat with them or talk on the phone. And in the last 12 years I can count on the fingers of one hand how many times she called me just to tell me about me, or my son, or ask how we are doing. If she does call, there is always an ulterior motive, money for my brother or for her because she gave my brother everything. I'm on the edge. I can't work full-time, take care of my family, and expect to hear several times a week how bad a person I am for refusing to give up everything I've worked so hard to take care of mine. Mother. No matter what, I love my mom. My husband and his family saw it unfold and several people remarked, "Why are you even trying?" Meaning trying to schedule calls so she can talk / see my son. I invited her to my house earlier this month, scheduled plane tickets, airport assistance, etc. Just to watch her play on her phone or spend time playing with the dog instead of reading a book to my little one who just wanted her attention. Today, as if the last straw was needed, I called to check on her and she stated that she was going home against the doctor's orders because her dog needed her, because the dog was sick. First, he has a very minor skin condition that is almost 100% cured thanks to her friend giving him a prescribed ointment. Secondly, my little one got sick this week, meaning he didn't go to kindergarten for 3 days. And even after I told her about it, she never called to find out how he was. Just like she never called to check on him when he came down with the flu last year, or when he had a mysterious week and a half illness earlier this year that resulted in 4 doctor visits and a temperature of 104 degrees. I can't take it anymore. I am literally writing this as a last resort. My husband tells me not to talk to anyone. That's the whole family I have left except for one paternal aunt, because he sees me cry when hurtful comments and guilt come into play. He sees me trying to hide it from my child. But then I feel like I'm giving them what they want, right? Look at little Miss Potato, such a bad person and so inept at dealing with life. She just chose to ignore us all. But I can't defend myself all day in front of extended family members whom I've seen for over 10 years. And in some cases over 2 decades. Nothing I say will ever be good enough. I was told in no uncertain terms that I was a terrible person because I refused to leave my husband and young child and move across the county to take care of my mother. Postscript, I am not subject to the FMLA. My employer is not large enough and there is no comparable law in my state. I have 1 day of vacation left due to my son getting sick earlier this year. My husband gets almost 3 times as many days off, so took many more days to take care of him. In general, I do not want to lose my job or look for another one. It's a good job, it's just limited to a small company. She refused to move in with me. Either my husband and I are building a mother-in-law, or we are moving to a bigger house, any aid agency or nursing home. She hesitates about allowing housework, but contradicts herself on the matter, telling me that Susie can help her if she needs anything, or that she has friends she can call, or, more often than not, She does well and can take care of herself. She wants help, but only when she wants it and only on her own terms. She told me that she would not end her relationship with my brother. I managed to get her to agree to a consultation after my brother attacked her, stole her car and pawned all her appliances. She moved to a domestic violence shelter but declined to press charges. This happened when I was 7 months pregnant, and when I refused to drive 20+ hours in a car. I was told essentially the same thing that I am being accused of now. She justifies my brother's behavior. He hooked up with the devil and he can't leave him. I've talked to the Adult Protective Services counselors and it all comes down to the fact that she's an adult. She can make her own decisions. Her doctors, although they seem to agree that she may need help taking care of herself, refuse to state that she is unable to take care of herself. My partner and I want to be married, but we don't care much for the idea of having a wedding. We wanted to elope, but my mom has been telling me since I was 16, and had never even had a boyfriend, that she wanted to see me get married and she would basically never forgive me if I eloped. I do like the idea of my family being there to celebrate with us, but I hate the idea of spending money we don't have on this huge party just so that our relationship can change in nothing but name and legal benefits. And for various reasons, it doesn't make sense for us to wait until we can afford a wedding to get married. We wanted to keep it small, preferably under $3,000, which is honestly more than I'd like to spend. But we have to be realistic. We had planned on having it in my in-laws' backyard, but even that was more money and effort than I was willing to put forth. I was stressed and feeling like I was out of options, so one day, I vented to my mom. She seemed really excited about the idea of helping me plan a wedding. It was kind of a red flag when she said, "My mom didn't help me plan my wedding. Let me live vicariously through you." But still, I agreed. She seemed really excited to help me find a venue. I was not excited, because I have not been excited about one single step in the wedding process and I just want it to be over. About a week later, I found out that this really great park in our city, that my partner loves, does weddings for an extremely small fee. I emailed the event coordinator and found out that the date we want is available. I told my mom, and her reaction was, "So I guess you don't need my help finding a place, then?" And every time I talk about it, she says the same thing. She has always talked about how shitty it is to guilt trip someone, but I feel like that's exactly what she's trying to do. I honestly can't tell whether or not I've done something wrong. Like, I'm not sure if I implied that I would only get married in a place she helped me find. I don't feel like trying to take action on my own wedding is that great of an offense, but I can tell she's upset. I want to make her feel better, but at the same time, I don't want to change our plans again just so that she can feel involved. My apartment complex didn't do traditional trick or treating on Halloween. Residents were advised to set out pre-packaged individual candy bags on their patios /front door areas if they wanted to participate, but the traditional knock-on-door, physically hand strangers candy was not permitted. So, Halloween comes and the kids are all dressed up and each building has a scheduled time where the kids go door to door. I ended up having to work late, so my neighbor offered to walk my kids around with hers at our building's scheduled time. About 45 minutes later, my kids came home with a small bucket of candy. 6 little goodie bags each from individual apartments that participated. Everything was fine. And my kids didn't say anything weird had happened. They were just excited to eat candy once they got home. The next day I took my kids to the park directly across from our apartment complex. My neighbor was there with her kids as well. The kids were playing and she took out one of those individual goodie bags with candy in it from her purse and started to loudly rummage in it. She ate several pieces of candy and my daughter eventually noticed. Ran up and asked if she could have a piece, and my neighbor responded, "Nope, this is my tax candy. Remember that this was my reward for taking you trick or treating last night." I was a little weirded out by that statement and asked what she meant. She said that since she is the one who had to take the kids out, she took 5 bags from each of my kids as a tax. Her son then chimes in and said, "You only took 2 bags from us." She responded with, "But I'm your mom. I was doing OP a favor so they get a higher candy tax." I was thinking about how to respond when I noticed that she was holding a Starburst candy and decided to just smile and nod and go back to watching my kids. I let her continue to finish off the bag of candy and then said, "Hey, aren't you vegan? You know a lot of those candies are made with animal products, right?" I explained what gelatin was and how a lot of those candies are made with it. She was horrified, Googles it, and then told her kids that they were leaving. She said something about how she was going to be sick and stormed off. Now she's giving me dirty looks every time we see her and won't let her kids play if she shows up at the park and we are there. My husband thinks I'm an asshole cause I should have either not said anything about the gelatin or said something right away when I noticed. I don't think it's my job to tell a vegan what is and isn't vegan though, and she deserved it for stealing candy from little kids. When we got home from the park after the gelatin incident, I sat my kids down and asked why they didn't tell me that the neighbor took half of their candy. My oldest kid is 6 and my youngest kid is 4. 6-year-old explained that as they went door to door during their designated trick-or-treating time, she would have my 4-year-old grab 2 bags instead of 1 from each apartment for the majority of them. She explained it to my kids that they were grabbing extra bags for her to be handed over at the end as taxation. So either freaking way she was directly taking candy from my kids or taking candy from other kids through mine. As for the authenticity of her vegan sim, I may have exaggerated when I said super vegan when I first posted this. She claims to be vegan and is very in people's faces about the benefits, etc. It's 100% about the health side. She brags about veganism curing cancer, diabetes, even some mental health issues. I have never once heard her talk about the benefits for animals. She also sells herbal tea products, customized gym clothing, etc. So she totes a pretty big vegan lifestyle. If that makes sense. Now for the gelatin. She knows what gelatin is, she knows what it's made out of, she knows that there are obvious things that she can't eat. But she had no idea that a lot of candy specifically had gelatin apparently. When I told her that they had gelatin in it, she knew what gelatin was but Googled the candies to see if I was correct. I think she is either really dumb or she eats non-vegan stuff all the time when no one's watching, and had to pretend to be horrified about it at this point. Cause a lot of you guys have pointed out that you literally can't be vegan and not know these things. I'm not vegan, I'm not even freaking vegetarian, and I know these things. My father is a dick. When he got my mother pregnant, he wanted her to quit her job and just stay home to be a good little wife and mother. He is very well off due to a trust fund and he doesn't really need to work. My mother refused and divorced him. Because of a prenup she got very little and he moved back to Europe. His parents never knew about me and my mother had a good profession and I never really wanted for anything. My grandmother and grandfather, her mom and dad were awesome. And I got to spend my summers exploring the wilds of Western Canada with them. My father never paid the child support he should have. Like I said, it did really matter. My mom makes good money and she gave me a great life as a child. I'm getting married. I met the love of my life at university and we have been together for 8 years. He is a wonderful person and he really is my lobster. His family is from the same city as my father and they are a huge rambunctious bunch. Because of a lot of intermingled business and personal relationships, my parental grandparents found out about my impending wedding, and me, I suppose. They have been in contact and want to come to Canada to meet me and my fiancé, who I guess is a grandson of an acquaintance of theirs. Small world. When they found out that my father had basically abandoned me to fend for myself in this world, this is honestly how they see it. They were pissed to say the least. It is very funny because we are decidedly upper middle class here. So long story short, they had their lawyer calculate the amount of child support my father should have paid with interest, and the cost of my post-secondary education. They then gave my this as a gift. What I didn't know was that it came out of my father's yearly draw on his trust fund. He is furious because it is obviously a sizable amount and it will very much affect his finances for at least the next 2 years. He may need to, gasp, get a job. He has been contacting me and telling me that his current wife and children will be negatively affected if I don't give him back this money. I don't really need it. And I guess I am entitled to it, and I am getting a trust fund now as well. But I really want to pay off any debt my mother may have and make sure that when she retires she can do whatever suits her fancy. I'm not giving it back. My half-siblings will not really be affected. They have trust funds set up already and their tuitions and fees and stuff are covered. My grandparents' family sets these up when a kid is born. One of the reasons my father is upset is because since he didn't bother to tell his parents about me, they did not set this up. They have since taken a good chunk of his trust fund and used it to set mine up. Realistically, the principal being separated 28 years ago would have left him in the exact same position. My mom was working on getting her PhD so she could help kids with a certain condition. That is what he wanted her to walk away from. My grandparents have sent me pictures of my family there. The coolest thing is that my grandfather looks like the granddad from The Parent Trap. My mom never remarried, but she has had a special friend since I was 5. He is amazing and taught me to swear in Colombian Spanish. I had lunch with my mom. Apparently she has no debt. Like at all. I guess she did literally write the book about the treatment for the kids she works with. She does okay for herself. I never really thought about it. We decided that what would be best is to set up a scholarship for people who want to go into her field of study. Since I am now a trustafarian, I can afford to do this. I am however going to book her and her friend a trip for after my wedding. And I am going to go pay off my car. My half-brother has posted about this. He has a slightly different viewpoint than myself. He is not in any way coming after myself or my mother. He is a young man who is disillusioned with his father.